George MacIntyre will be Tennessee's starting quarterback in 2026. At least one major publication declared that earlier this week.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Happy Friday morning, and welcome into the unofficial start to your weekend. I know some weather is going to be coming into town here in Knoxville, East Tennessee, really the South in general, so hopefully everybody is prepared and ready to roll, and thoughts and prayers to a warm and fun-filled weekend watching sports and hopefully playing in the snow. I mean, if it's going to be a winter weather advisory and all that, I mean, don't give me any of this freezing rain. Don't give me any of this ice. If it's going to do it, give me some snow, all right? Make it worth it, and we can at least go out there and throw some snowballs or two. This is Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Cain. I appreciate you guys for being here and making us a part of your morning routine, your first watch, your first listen each and every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network available. Today's show is going to be a big one. We're going to bring on Zach Seyko from Locked On Nittany Lions. He's going to talk about the 4 defensive transfers from Penn State to Tennessee and what Tennessee is getting in those players. Excited about that conversation. That's coming up here in segment numbers 2 and 3. But first, the starting quarterback prediction time for all SEC teams from ESPN. That's coming up right now. And of course, Everydayer's going to do the show without you. Join the Everydayer Club, $5 a month. Ad-free audio version, availability to buy merch in the Locked On merch store, access to the group chat and the Locked On Discord channel. So having a whole lot of fun over there. Go join the Everydayer Club if you want more Locked On Vols content. All right, so ESPN predicts that George MacIntyre is going to be the starting quarterback for the University of Tennessee. It's not really a scathing hot take, okay? It's not really going out on a limb because what we know right now is, as we record this podcast right now, Joey Aguilar is not in the picture. He has a preliminary injunction hearing for February the 10th, and based on everything that's happening in college athletics right now, I mean, there's a guy that's going to be playing against Tennessee for Alabama basketball tomorrow that has had three different contracts in the NBA and been playing in the G League, and that just makes no sense. You have Trinidad Chambliss that all believe that he's going to win his appeal and have a 6-year of eligibility. You've got all these different courts, hearings, predictions, and all that. So, I mean, who knows? Like, I don't think that Joey's going to get another year, but who knows? Like, I can't sit here and definitively say that one way or the other. So you hold out hope for sure, because I think the expectations and the trajectory of next year really change if that's the case. But right now, you can't count on that. So you have a 5-star incoming freshman that everybody's excited about in Faizon Brandon. That's great, but he hasn't taken part in one Tennessee football practice yet, okay? I mean, he can come in here and dominate spring and say, okay, that's clearly the guy. He can come in here, get his feet wet a little bit, then go into fall camp and say, all right, cool, well, let's battle it out. What we do know is right now, George MacIntyre has been here for a year. He knows the system. The coaches know him. They have a good idea of kind of what he brings to the table. And you know, I think that part of that and part of what they believe they think they have in Faizon Brandon caused them to, yeah, we'll take a swing at Sam Levitt, but we miss out on Sam Levitt. Well, we like the guys in the room. I'm not saying that's the right call. I'm just saying it feels like that kind of contributed to the quarterback strategy in the transfer portal, of course, and they settled on Ryan Staub from Colorado, who we heard a lot about from Kevin Borby yesterday of Locked On Buffs. So ESPN predicts that George MacIntyre is going to be Tennessee's starting quarterback next fall. This is what ESPN has to say. Quote, this is why he'll start. Quote, it's hard to tell what the plan is for the Vols right now. Starting quarterback Joey Aguilar is seeking an additional year of eligibility as a former college transfer. Tennessee was in the hunt for transfer Sam Levitt and Bo Perbula. Tennessee really didn't push hard for Bo Perbula and missed out. For now, MacIntyre is the safest pick. The Franklin, Tennessee native was the number 109 overall recruit in the 2025 SC Next 300. That's the rankings for ESPN. He was a 4-star by Rivals and threw for 69 yards on 7 of 9 passing and 2 non-conference appearances during his redshirt season. In terms of competition, this is what ESPN has to say. Quote, the short-term situation might be in question at the moment, but Faizon Brandon gives Tennessee an elite prospect to build around for the next few years. The 6'4", 206-pound passer from North Carolina was ESPN's number 9 overall recruit. He was number 32 in the Rivals rankings, like number 9 in the Rivals industry rankings, so a very good player. and will look to compete for the starting job and prove he's ready to lead this team as a true freshman. The Vols also brought in Colorado transfer Ryan Staub, who earned 2 starts over 3 years in Boulder, threw for 681 yards, 5 total touchdowns, and 4 picks. So that is what ESPN has to say about Tennessee. It's kind of what we knew, right? I mean, there's no big-time hot take here. Nobody's going out on a limb. But George MacIntyre is the safest pick right now until we see about Joey Aguilar. And then, of course, we see what Faizon Brandon brings in spring and Ryan Staub as well. What about some other teams across the Southeastern Conference? What does ESPN predict to be the starting quarterback for the other 15 teams in the Southeastern Conference? Well, at Vanderbilt, they predict Jared Curtis. And, well, there's a big-time investment in that guy, like Faizon Brandon, right? There's a big-time investment in that prospect for Jared Curtis, flipping over from Georgia to Vanderbilt, staying at home. He's from Middle Tennessee, and he's widely considered a 5-star rated prospect and one of the top quarterbacks in this league. So he is one of the top quarterbacks in this signing class, I should go ahead and say. And so that's who ESPN predicts to be the starter for Vanderbilt. Texas A&M, Marcel Reed, he made the announcement that he's staying and going to play for the Aggies for one more year. Obviously, I'm not sure what choices he had. He would not have had a much stock in the NFL pro circles right now, and he would have been attractive in the transfer portal, no doubt. But he's going to stay with Texas A&M. Arch Manning, of course, will be Texas' starting quarterback, and Texas will roll into Knoxville at some points. Let's see here. Do I still have the schedule? Knoxville will roll in here to Tennessee. That's 2025, sorry. 2026. Texas will be here September the 26th, so looking forward to that. South Carolina, ESPN predicts Lenora Sellers. Of course, they made a big deal about him re-signing and staying and building around Shane Beamer. New offensive system, new offensive coordinator. We'll see if that can help Lenora Sellers, who is a tremendous athlete, but again has never taken that next step as a passer, and that you kind of have to have that, right? In order to be thought of as one of the better quarterbacks in the country. His name's lumped in that conversation. I've never truly understood it. I mean, again, a great athlete, but leading a team to a 4-8 record, that does not qualify as one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. Ole Miss, ESPN predicts Trinidad Chambliss, which means ESPN predicts that he wins his eligibility case. That is, let's see, when's that hearing? See, this is what they say about Chambliss. The unexpected superstar from Division II Ferris State is attempting to get a 6th year of eligibility. The NCAA denied his waiver on January the 9th. He hired attorney Tom Mars, who's really good, has worked on behalf of Tennessee before. Pete Golding and his staff fully committed Chambliss being the quarterback 1 in 2026. They need all this to work out, and of course that's not set in stone, but the belief is, reportedly, there's a lot of good feelings about Trinidad being cleared for another year, and so that case is not related to Joey Aguilar, but you sit here and kind of like, well, what's this mean for Aguilar? It's not like it hurts, right? John Mateer has come back, and he'll be the starting quarterback for Oklahoma this year. He was never the same quarterback after his injury. I mean, he just wasn't. He was really good running the football all year, but didn't run it as much following his injury. Throwing the football was always an issue, but John Mateer, despite missing a couple of weeks, still led Oklahoma to a college football playoff berth. So John Mateer's back for Oklahoma. Austin Simmons going from Ole Miss to Missouri, and ESPN projects Austin Simmons, the former Ole Miss starting quarterback who started the first couple of games for the Rebels, to be the starting quarterback for the Missouri Tigers in 2026. You go on and you look at Mississippi State. Mississippi State, they are predicting that Camario Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback. He came on and played a little bit there towards the end of the season, I believe. A dual threat, 6'4", 230 pounds. He is a load. He rushed for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Egg Bowl for Ole Miss, against Ole Miss, 304 total yards in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So he's a project, but he's a very good athlete. Sam Levitt, of course, for LSU. Kenny Minchie coming by way of Notre Dame to Kentucky. That's who they project for the Wildcats. Gunnar Stockton for Georgia. Aaron Filio, redshirt sophomore, Georgia Tech transfer, coming with his offensive coordinator to Florida. And that's who ESPN predicts to be the starting quarterback over Tramel Jones and Will Griffin in the Florida Gators quarterback room. And then for the Auburn Tigers, Byram Brown, transfer from South Florida, who Golish brought with him. Arkansas, KJ Jackson, who got a little bit of run for Taylon Green there towards the end of the season. And for Alabama, ESPN predicts Keelan Russell to be the starter over Austin Mack, who was the backup for Ty Simpson and who came in the college football playoff loss to Indiana when Ty Simpson got hurt. That's an early look at who ESPN believes is going to be the starters for Tennessee, the starters at quarterback for the SEC. In case you're wondering about Tennessee's non-conference game towards the beginning of the season for Georgia Tech, and they are predicting that it will be, let's see here, Georgia Tech, where are you? They are predicting it will be Alberto Mendoza, the brother of Heisman Trophy winner and probably top 5 pick Fernando Mendoza of Indiana's quarterback. He transferred in from Indiana. That's Alberto Mendoza. ESPN is predicting him to win the quarterback battle for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. And, of course, that is Tennessee's Week 2 opponent on September the 12th. All right, when we come back, what about these transfers from Penn State, from the Nittany Lions? We're going to welcome on Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions. He's going to give us the scoop first on Xavier Gilliam and Chaz Coleman, and then in segment number 3 he'll tell us about linebacker Amare Campbell and safety Dejuan Lane. All that and more is coming up next. We continue on here. It is your Friday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on all the action, because right now every NFL playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a jam-packed loaded slate with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing, and on game day, and you'll see what boosts you can apply to your picks. The boost lets you lean into the game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defenses, quarterback play, or coaching. The boost gives you more juice to bet on the things you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new and something uncertain. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make you feel like the best bets are on the way. You make the picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts as the playoffs continue to roll. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day that is over at FanDuel on the safe, secure, easy-to-use app. That's FanDuel. Rolling right along here on a Friday morning. Don't forget to sign up for the Everydayer Club, $5 a month. Access ad-free audio version of Locked On Vols. Access to the Locked On merch store. Tons and tons of perks. You can chat with us in the group chat over there on the Discord server. That's the Locked On Everydayer Club, Locked On Vols Everydayer Club. You can sign up today for $5 a month at lockedonvols.supercast.com. That is lockedonvols.supercast.com. All right, without further ado, let's talk a little Tennessee transfers from Penn State with Locked On Nittany Lions host Zach Seyko. Zach Chaz Coleman, he was one of the most highly sought-after guy in the transfer portal. On 3 rankings gave him number 3 of any position in the portal. Didn't play an awful lot as a freshman, at least stat-wise didn't break out, if you will. But Lane Kiffin wanted him. Ohio State wanted him. Tennessee obviously wanted him. Tennessee won out and bringing his athleticism and his potential to Knoxville and trying to make him the premier pass rusher moving forward. What can you tell us about Tennessee's edge defender that they got from the transfer portal in Chaz Coleman?
Well, Eric, first and foremost, thanks for having me back on the show. And I guess there's reason here, right? With four different players, 2 different assistant coaches. Chaz Coleman, though, is definitely as good as advertised. I still want to see him develop, right? Because he was just particularly used as a pass rusher. But the upside's there. I mean, he has pro-level pass rushing moves. And I feel like the rest of it will just come along, right? Being a 3-down defensive lineman, being someone who can be reliable in the run game, but he was primarily a specialty pass rusher. So you bring him in on 3rd down situations, but I think he's going to be more than that in due time. What's also the benefit is that he knows Jim Knowles' defense, and Jim knows how to maximize his abilities. He called him. I mean, Knowles was talking about Chaz Coleman the entirety of that season he was with Penn State. He dubbed him the Chazmanian Devil, and you don't just give a true freshman who showed up late to campus. He didn't show up as an early enrollee, all that stuff. He came in around June and was in the rotation by the middle of August. And I don't even know that we got to see truly the best of Chaz Coleman in that freshman season because he dealt with bumps and bruises. Some people allege that he was holding out to go to Ohio State. Well, he never went to Ohio State, but
Yeah.
I definitely do think that, between he was dealing with some illnesses, he did have some injuries. There was everything that was going on up in the air about Penn State, with the transfer portal, who's going to be the head coach, all that stuff. But Coleman is if he continues to trend in the right direction, he can be a surefire first round pick, maybe even a top 10 overall selection.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize he was a late arrival, so didn't get in until June. And everywhere across the country, but here in Tennessee, we've seen cases where, those guys just, it's like they just don't really have a chance, that first season because they're so far behind. But for him, he's just too talented to keep off the field. So give him a role, and that's a pass rushing role, third down role, and watch him go to work a little bit. What were some of the illnesses and bumps and bruises you're referencing?
Just him being, he was out of the lineup. This was when the interim head coach, Terry Smith, had taken over. Media were constantly questioning, hey, where's Chaz Coleman? Where's Chaz Coleman? All right. And then that's when those, the social media message board rumors start to begin. And coach did say, he's like, well, he was dealing with an illness the week before, and this was in the middle of the season. There were also some bumps and bruises. They don't get too detailed. Oh, he's dealing with an elbow injury. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. And I'm not trying to allege that about Coleman, but they do not go into detail at Penn State. And I imagine that's going to continue with the new head coach and Matt Campbell. James Franklin and the coaching staff were operated with that regard. They were in lockstep when it came to the injury report. You had no idea what anybody was dealing with unless you actually saw it happen in the game. So, and then that way your eyes couldn't lie to you. But if something happened in practice, if somebody did tweak something in a game, aggravated in practice, you would never know. So I can't give you any details, any specifics about bumps and bruises, other than the fact that the interim head coach had said there was a stretch over the course of the season, later on midway through the tail end of the season, where he was dealing with bumps and bruises. He had an illness 1 week, the week before. And they also said that matchups kind of dictated how they were going to use Chaz Coleman. So, for example, against Iowa didn't pass at all. I think they attempted maybe 10 passes in that game, if I remember correctly. You don't want Chaz Coleman, a freshman Chaz Coleman, in that situation. No. That's the only thing that I think. Just get him to add the weight, have him be more reliable as a run stuffer. Again, make him the complete defensive end, but he has pro-level pass rushing moves and abilities right now.
How big of a deal is it that he's going to – you mentioned Jim Knowles, obviously. He's Tennessee's defensive coordinator. But Andrew A.J. Jackson, his position coach, the edge coach, is also here at Tennessee. It feels like, and we'll talk more about this with Amare Campbell and Dejuan Lane in segment number 3. It just feels like there's just some cohesiveness and familiarity, and like the fact that he's got Knowles and his position coach. It's going to be a seamless transition here to Knoxville. He'll just have to learn, hey, where's class? Where do I get food and all that type of stuff.
That's why I like this move a ton. I feel like there would have been an element of starting over, and I imagine he still would have developed at Ohio State or if he went to LSU, but that familiarity and Jim Knowles understanding how Chaz Coleman works in a defense and vice versa. And that's part of that uphill battle that we talked about with Knowles. Hey, his defense does take time. Well, if you bring in Chaz Coleman, Xavier Gilliam, Amare Campbell, Dejuan Lane, you start to get a seamless transition here. So yes, the position coaches help. Coach Jackson, that's definitely an appeal if you're Chaz Coleman. You know people, you're able to relate to them. You're not starting over. We all saw it from Penn State's perspective that, this was going to be a homecoming for Ohio State. They let him get away. They misscouted him, whatever you wanted to say. And Ohio State was going to push to get him back, and Tennessee ultimately won.
Yeah, everybody thought he was Ohio State bound from this
All
side
the way.
as well. And then he went down
way.
to Lane to LSU, and we're like, is he going to make it here? Because he was supposed to come here after that visit. It's like, is he going to even get on campus? And so ultimately Tennessee got it done. Real quick before we talk about the others, in the second, third layer of the defense, Xavier Gilliam in the front, the interior, a veteran, played a whole lot of football. What's Tennessee getting in that defensive tackle?
Gilliam is. I hope I won't try to get into too many football nuances here. He's an athletic defensive tackle. If you're looking for someone that can play, he can play 3 downs. He's more of a pass rushing defensive tackle, if you will. because he's just super athletic. So he's not just a space eater. You get him to stuff the run on first and second down, and then you bring him off. No, he can play all three downs. He was starting to emerge. He was definitely in the rotation. As a redshirt freshman, we tabbed him as a breakout player for Penn State this past season, and he was that. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Some people might say, well, he didn't live up to expectations. Well, what expectations do you have for a second-year defender in a new defense that was a former three-star? Gilliam surpassed my expectations. He was one of the more reliable defensive tackles. Again, knows Jim Knowles' system, flourished in it, right? We're talking about players that not only just know the defense, but actually these four players that Tennessee picks up from Penn State flourished. They had some of the better seasons on Penn State's defense with Jim Knowles' system. So that's definitely a plus there. You get somebody that's reliable against the run, but most notably, you can't find too many defensive tackles that are reliable on all three downs. Xavier Gilliam does that.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can save on all of your taxes and have them done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and believe me, that's a headache in its own right. I deal with that every year, and work to get you every deduction available. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling your business. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If TurboTax Expert didn't file for your taxes last year, just file by February the 28th. Again, that's $150 all in. If a TurboTax Expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February the 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local. That's TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Continuing a little Locked On crossover, Locked On Vols meets Locked On Nittany Lion, talking about the 4 defensive transfers coming from Happy Valley to Rocky Top and helping try to jumpstart this year number 1 of the Jim Knowles defensive system. So we're all excited about this. I think these are, Tennessee brought in 18 guys, 15 if you don't count specialists. And so Tennessee brought in a big class. There's going to be a lot of guys playing. But, in terms of Tennessee needing to just completely reinvent the defense, it was just so bad. After being so elite in 2024, the reason the Vols were in the playoff, it was so bad in 2025. And, of course, wholesale changes came with that. So I think these 4 additions are just monumental in that regard. And I think the most important transfer addition for Tennessee is the next guy we're going to talk about, linebacker Amare Campbell. Again, linebacker, it's like quarterback. It's automatically a leadership position, okay? Not only that, not only does he know the system, not only is he coming with his former DC, but he was so productive. He's so productive at Penn State, played the most snaps of any linebacker, had over 100 tackles his last year at North Carolina before going to Happy Valley. This guy is durable. He's on the field all the time, and he's productive. And so I just think that, green dot on the helmet, Tennessee gets its captain back as well at linebacker. Aaron Carter took his name out of the NFL draft, coming back to play at Tennessee. So the linebacker position I'm pumped about for Tennessee, but Amare Campbell I think is the most important addition because he's a leadership position, he's productive, and I think that he can help both the second, third, and first layer of the defense to kind of get everything going in the right direction.
Yeah, with some of these losses for Penn State, they're not ideal. It's just like, oh, good riddance. He doesn't want to be here. Look, Amare Campbell's your leading tackler, and I can't remember the last time I saw somebody get 100 tackles in a season at Penn State. I guess I have to think all the way back to, and probably the Penn State, the diehard Penn State fans might be disappointed in me, but I'm thinking Sean Lee or Paul Puslesny, some guys that are vintage names now because they played in the middle of the 2000s. That's what I'm talking about here. You get Amare Campbell, who's not just we talk about Chaz Coleman saying, okay, he needs to develop still. He's a specialist in this area. He has the potential. Amare Campbell is going to give you a elite play. You know what he's going to give you. He is, you mentioned production, durability. I would go with how smart he is, how intelligent he is, honestly. Amare Campbell always impressed me. I enjoyed watching him, not making the plays. It was all the pre-snap stuff. He is essentially a quarterback on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
He is an extension of Jim Knowles. And to see it happen early in the season, this wasn't something that developed over time. Campbell was doing this you didn't see it as much in games 1, 2, and 3. Those were non-conference games. So right out of the gate in the whiteout, he's shifting guys around. He's making adjustments. Oregon makes a check at the line of scrimmage. He's communicating everything in the middle of the field. And to watch him go to work in that regard, where he's basically a coach calling a play on the middle of the field, that is something you can't put a price on. That is something you cannot try to value and guess and say, oh, well, this is so. You are getting a quarterback of the defense, someone who basically acts as a captain, whether or not he is a captain, knows Jim Knowles' defense, but knows how to call it in real time.
Yeah, again, all the reasons why I think this is the biggest pickup for Tennessee in the transfer portal. I mean, Chaz Coleman's got the highest upside. Chaz Coleman could be the highest draft pick when it's all said and done. I think Amare Campbell is the most important, going to be the most productive, and I'm excited to see him go to work. I mean, in some of the film that I've watched of him and everything I've read about him, talked to people like you about him, it's just like I went to, of course, I write for ballquest.com, the On3 site, and I went to I forgot what it's called, but the Penn State On3 site, and I was looking at, they kind of did we retained these guys, lost these guys, we've added these guys, and every one of the guys that Tennessee got, they're like, oh, this is not an ideal loss. Oh, this one hurts. Oh, and that leads me back to the secondary with Dejuan Lane. Is that right?
Yep.
There
Dejuan
we go.
Lane.
Okay.
Yep.
Dejuan Lane. Not Dejuan, that I've been calling him for 2 weeks. Dejuan Lane. And he's a guy that has played a ton. Wasn't a starter every game. He started 3 games this year. But Tennessee needed help at safety. Tennessee brought in like 4 or 5 safeties. A guy that knows the system, will be reunited with Anthony Poindexter, who's the secondary coach here at Tennessee and co-defensive coordinator. Obviously knows the system, and it felt like his role was just going to continue to grow if he would have stayed at Penn State. What can you tell me about Lane and what Tennessee's getting in him?
I'll start with this. Lane recommitted to Penn State originally, and I'm not sure what the understanding was. Maybe Anthony Poindexter comes back, or that's something he was waiting for, but this clearly seems like a move. I like my assistant coach a ton. I mean, that's who these players work with the most. It's, well, the head coach and the coordinators and all that stuff matters. You brought up Andrew Jackson being a defensive line coach, and that's going to be helpful when you're recruiting guys like Gilliam and Coleman. I would say this one specifically, Anthony Poindexter bringing Dejuan Lane with him. I'm actually surprised that more players didn't, right? A King Mack, somebody who goes to NC State. I was totally expecting him to end up at Tennessee, and you could have had both. But Dejuan Lane, talented player, kind of similar to Chaz Coleman, but not to the extent of, oh, this guy's a pending first-round pick. It's just you just need things to continue to trend in the right direction. NFL draft pick at the end of the day, but still need to see more, right? But he does a lot of things well. He's good in coverage. He's reliable in coverage. I like safeties, though, that are not afraid to come down into the box and make a tackle. Dejuan Lane, same thing, kind of one of those players that you saw it. If you watched Penn State for 12 plus games this past season, you could see who was picking up the system, who was struggling with it. Lane wasn't one of those players that, like Amare Campbell, that just, hey, you figured it out right away. But Lane progressively over time just continued to get better week in, week out, and understood what his responsibilities were. Again, I would have tabbed him as a starter, co-starter in Penn State's defense for this upcoming season. Not somebody I wanted to lose for the Nittany Lions' sake. Excellent pickup for the Volunteers because I think he's only going to continue to get better. He's entering year 3. He's always, even when he stepped on campus, he's always been a player that was tabbed by the coaching staff as just somebody to watch for. Just continue to watch out for him. This is a guy, he's not playing a ton as a freshman, but in practice, we see the upside here. That's what you're getting with Dejuan Lane, because I still think he still has room to grow and is only going to get better. And he's back in Jim Knowles' defense where he was starting to figure it out.
Yeah, I'll look at backups, how many games they played in, how many games they started, all that stuff. But I like to go to Pro Football Focus, and I'm trying to spell the guy's name right. There we go. And 290. Okay, so he played about 300 snaps. I mean, that's not nothing. Like, it's certainly not 600, 700 snaps or whatever. Like, he was in the rotation. He played quite a bit of football, a couple of
Yes.
years as well. He played a little bit last year as well. So I think this is one that Anthony Poindexter really wanted. I'm not saying that Tennessee didn't want or wouldn't have taken King Mac, but it just felt like there was never, ever, ever any juice or traction there at all.
I'm surprised by that one,
Yeah,
genuinely.
and maybe he had no interest in Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee didn't push for him. I don't know, but it was like as soon as Lane and Campbell jumped in the portal, it was like they're here.
Yeah.
Mac jumped in the portal before those guys, and it was like, well, he never even talked about coming to campus. So I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't get that one because it seemed like he was a Poindexter guy through and through. He committed to him originally, right? He was a freshman at Penn State. Then he transferred to Alabama. Not sure the logistics behind that one, but then comes back. So the position coach in Anthony Poindexter was the consistent. Again, that's kind of, if I'm Tennessee, I'm a little disappointed that didn't materialize, but so be it. NC State, maybe he just wants to be the face of the defense. I don't know that King Mac would have been the face of the Volunteers defense. And at NC State, I don't know that team very well. I guess I got to go listen to Locked On Wolfpack, but he very well could be that captain, that superstar, rather than being overshadowed by some other talented players. Like Amare Campbell can be the face of your defense. Chaz Coleman can be the face of your defense. Xavier Gilliam, I would say, kind of maybe pushes into that depending on the defensive tackle situation. I wouldn't say that about Dejuan Lane, but King Mac could have been that. I just don't think he likes sharing that, maybe.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, Gilliam certainly will not play 600 snaps this season, but he will play a ton because Tennessee should have brought in another defensive tackle and just, so far only has Gilliam. But it's been a pretty good haul for Tennessee defensively, and my favorite of the classes are these four from Penn State because of all the reasons we talked about, reuniting not only with Jim Knowles, but with position coaches. And again, you can speak to this as well real quick. We got to go. But Jim Knowles didn't coach linebackers last year, but Jim Knowles is a linebacker coach. That's what he's coached his entire career up until last year, I believe.
Yes.
And so he's very hands-on and can help Amare Campbell. So there's guys, there's coach and player at each level of the new Tennessee defense, and I think that's just a plus.
Yeah. Across the board, I made my one joke about because it seems like Penn State players they're going in groups. They're not going here. They're going to Tennessee. They're going to Virginia Tech. They're going to North Carolina, and that's what I find very interesting is that it's not sporadic. No. It's. I mean, yes, there are select cases, of course. USC lands one, NC State lands a player. But I think it's interesting, Tennessee, the Nittany Volunteers, because they get 4 players and 3 assistants, right? You had to remind me that they picked up Andrew Jackson as well. So, but Virginia Tech's kind of the joke. But Tennessee, maybe I'll take a jab here at Virginia Tech because I think Tennessee definitely got the most production by far. Best assistant coaches, best players overall. Those 4 players have more impact than all of the recruits and players that Virginia Tech got.
Really fun show today here on a Friday. Appreciate Zach Seyko for stopping by from Locked On Nittany Lions to break down Xavier Gilliam, Chaz Coleman, Amare Campbell, Dejuan Lane, Tennessee's 4 transfer portal additions from the defensive side of the football from Penn State to help accelerate everything that is Jim Knowles and year number 1 here in this system. So appreciate him giving us a little background info on all those things and talking ESPN's predictions for starting quarterbacks. They say George MacIntyre is going to be the guy for Tennessee. What say you? All that and more. We'll continue the conversation on a Monday Locked On Balls. If you're here in the South and East Tennessee, get ready for the weather. They say it's coming. It's already kind of backing off a little bit. It's supposed to be what, like 10 inches a couple of days ago. Now it's only going to be a couple inches, but that freezing rain, that ice here in the area. So stay safe, stay warm. But again, if it comes, it better come with some snow so we can get out there and play a little bit. Appreciate you guys as always. Have a great week. We'll talk a little Tennessee and Alabama hoops later on Monday as well. This is Locked On Balls.